What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies and I love ranking movies, and that is what we're here to do today because this is the March wrap-up video, the video where I talk about all of the brand new releases that I had a chance to see in March of 2026 and how I would rank them from worst to best. But you guys know it's never just about my list, it's about your list as well, and I would love to know all of the brand new movies that you had a chance to see in March of 26 in that comment section down below and how you would rank them from worst to best as well. And finally, guys, before getting into the ranked list, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into March of 2026, ranked from the worst to the best.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
Alright guys, so I saw 6 brand new films in March of 2026, and if you want any more of my thoughts on any of the movies that I'm about to talk about, well, I did 6 quick reactions to all 6 of these films. They're all on my YouTube channel right now, and a quick reaction is just a YouTube short where I give you my thoughts before the movie and directly after seeing the movies, a couple quick positives and negatives, just a quick video kind of telling you guys my quick thoughts on those movies. And then I did full reviews for 3 of the movies on this list. As it turns out, the 3 top movies on this list. So I did full reviews for those if you haven't watched them yet. And again, you want more content on any of the movies we're about to talk about, well, all of that can be found on my YouTube channel. And I've started uploading to TikTok under the same name of Michael Weer. So if you want to check me out on TikTok, I've got some movie related content and some quick reactions there as well. And so with all of that out of the way and not wanting to waste any more time, let's get into the ranked list. So at number 6, the worst movie that I saw in March of 2026 is Mike and Nick and Alice. This film stars James Marsden as a character named Mike, who's a gangster who works for this bigger gangster organization, and it stars Vince Vaughn as a character named Nick, who not only is Nick of the present, but he's also Nick of the future because this movie involves time traveling, and this movie opens with the Vince Vaughn Nick of the future coming back to the past to try and save his past self from making some mistakes that he's going to regret. And because it's a gangster flick and time traveling flick, there's also a couple action set pieces in here, so let me give you guys the quick positives, and the quick positives for this movie are going to be Vince Vaughn and his comedic timing. I think this guy is always funny, and pretty much anytime he's trying to be funny in this movie, it really worked for me. Then you've got James Marsden's character, and I'm just a big fan of James Marsden in general. Anytime he pops up in something, I want to check it out, and so it was fun seeing him in this movie. And the third act did have a really fun action set piece where you've got both Nicks and Mike on the same page going after this bigger gangster organization, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But unfortunately, that's where my positives ended for this movie, and then getting into my negatives, I thought the dialogue was terrible for the most part. I mean, there were some moments from Vince Vaughn that I laughed at, but otherwise the dialogue was awful in this film. I thought the pace was off. It felt like it was way too rushed or way too slow throughout the entire runtime of the movie. Another issue I had with this movie was the energy that the villains had was way too over the top. Think about Roadhouse with Conor McGregor, how his energy in the movie didn't match anyone else in the film. That's how the villains of this movie felt versus the heroes who were cool, calm, and collected and were trying to sort things out with each other. You had these crazy gangsters that were doing insane stuff. You have one guy who's just coked out the entire time. And again, I'm referencing Conor McGregor from Roadhouse because that's what the main villain of this film really felt like. And then my biggest negative for this film was the overly convoluted plot. Again, on paper, time traveler going back in time trying to save his younger self, that works. I'm a big fan of time traveling films. But when you take that element of this film and then you take the element of the love triangle between Mike, Nick, and Alice, that's another big element of this film. And then you've got the gangsters in this film, and then they're way too over the top, and then you try to mash all these storylines together. That probably bled into my issue with the pacing of this film, because you'd have these action moments of these gangsters and these heroes fighting it out, and then you'd slow down and talk about the love triangle problems, or you'd slow down and talk about the problems between Nick from the future and Nick right now, or you'd slow down and you'd talk about what Mike's got going disappointed on his life. It was just way too much crammed into one film. This honestly felt like a streaming movie that should have been a streaming series, but had they slowed this thing down, made it like a 6-part mini series, I think it could have worked a lot better, could have played a lot better, and it was going to streaming anyway. I don't understand why you wouldn't just make this a streaming series, since you have the element of time travel, this love triangle. You could have played into all of those elements so much better in a little mini series, but instead you just crammed this into a film and it just feels overly convoluted and messy. And so that's why Mike and Nick and Alice is the worst film that I saw in March of 2026, and it is number 6. Bringing me to my number 5 film on this list, and this was a big disappointment. I think at the end of the year, I'll be surprised if this isn't on my top 10 most disappointing movies of the entire year, because it is The Immortal Man, and this is a Peaky Blinders film. This movie essentially is supposed to cap off Thomas Shelby's storyline within the Peaky Blinders series. For those of you who haven't watched Peaky Blinders, Cillian Murphy plays the character of Thomas Shelby, and he plays it so damn well. I love the first couple of seasons of the Peaky Blinders series. I will admittedly say that I wasn't the biggest fan of season 5 or 6. 6 especially felt like a drag. It felt like it was really stretched out, like they didn't have a lot of material. It was also the COVID season, so you could just tell that like actors weren't necessarily with other actors at the same time, and it was a season that didn't really work for me, and it ended that series on a low note. So when I heard they were coming out with a movie called The Immortal Man, a movie about Cillian Murphy getting back into his Thomas Shelby role, and his son is now grown up and working with the Nazis, and you have to have Thomas Shelby go and try to pull him out of that. Well, that sounded like a really good story, but unfortunately this felt a lot like season 6 again. It was very slow paced, and it didn't feel like it had that payoff that fans of the Peaky Blinders series really deserve. Like, if you love the Peaky Blinders series, especially the first 4 seasons of that show, you want to see familiar faces from that show, but I think the only familiar face that you really get to see is Thomas Shelby. You only get to see Cillian Murphy's character, and that was a little disappointing. I would have liked a little bit more. Now, I have had some pushback on my dislike for season 6 of this show, where people told me, listen, it's just because you had historical events and historical figures, and you couldn't really change those, and so you had to work the Peaky Blinders into those, to which I say, well, then why do that at all? Why not give the fans something that they're going to absolutely love and say, okay, this is something that we really like, let's go with that. So season 6 didn't really work for me, and now The Immortal Man, it didn't really work for me. Yes, it is an end cap to Thomas Shelby's story. If you love Thomas Shelby and the character played by Cillian Murphy, well, then I think that you'll enjoy that aspect of this film, but this felt long, it felt drawn out. It took me 3 viewings just to get through this movie on Netflix because it was so slow going. Like, I was hoping for an action-packed movie, like give me something that I could really sink my teeth into, and I didn't really feel like that. I don't feel like I'll ever go back to the Immortal Man movie in the future, so that's why it's one of the most disappointing movies I've seen in 2026 so far, and that's why it's at number 5. That'll lead to the third and final movie that I watched on streaming this month. At number 4, we have the film War Machine. War Machine stars Alan Ritchson as a soldier who's trying to honor the memory of his brother. His brother was also a soldier, died in combat, and their plan was to become Army Rangers together, but after his brother died, he just wants to complete that task, complete that mission for his brother. He keeps getting turned down because he's a little bit older, but he's Alan Ritchson. He's built, and so eventually he gets into the Rangers, and he goes through the whole Ranger course, and honestly, the first act of this movie is my favorite part of this film, when it is just a pro-America, pro-United States, pro-military, and you've got this beast of a man trying to become the best version of himself while also trying to honor his fallen brother. Oh, it's such a beautiful story. That worked for me so much. I wish the next 2 acts of this film had been just as grounded as the first act, because wow, did that work for me. Unfortunately, though, my love for this movie really ended with the first act, and then I liked the rest of the movie when it became a sci-fi adventure film that was kind of mirroring The Predator. What do I mean by that? Well, you've got the situation where Alan Ritchson's character and a bunch of other people trying to qualify as Rangers are all sent on their final mission, their final task. If they complete this and they get back alive and they're not detected out in the wild, well, then they will become Army Rangers. But while they're out there, they run into an alien robot that takes out so many of them, and then they have to find a way as a group to try and beat this alien robot from another planet that seems to be targeting the best of them. And that's kind of Predator just wrapped up in a new 2026 package, because you've got this alien from another planet where, sure, the alien from another planet in Predator was the Predator. It was flesh and blood. blood, but this thing is more robotic and it's more machine than anything else, and that's why the movie's called War Machine, although it could also be called War Machine because Alan Ritchson is becoming a war machine. And so you've got our version of a war machine versus space's version of a war machine that clash with each other. And I'm not saying the rest of the movie didn't work. It just becomes a sci-fi adventure film at that point. And when you get late into the third act, I did feel like the movie went on a bit too long, because after the final showdown with the war machine robot, you got Alan Ritchson reporting back to the Army Rangers, only to find out that the entire world has now been attacked by these different space robots, and he seems to be the only one that knows how to defeat it, and it just goes on and on and on, a little too long. But again, that first act of the film, it really worked for me. That's why I have it over the other two films on this list so far, and I think had they continued on that more grounded path, a story about a soldier trying to protect the people he loves, trying to honor his brother, man, that really could have sent this movie home. It could have been my favorite movie in March. But as it stands, this movie's at number 4. It's a fun popcorn flick. That brings us to my top 3 movies for March of 2026. Don't forget to throw your ranked list in that comment section down below. And at number 3, we have the scariest movie that you'll ever hear in Undertone. Undertone is a movie about a girl who is making a horror podcast, and the whole film takes place inside of her house that she lives in and that her dying mother lives in upstairs. Her mother seems to be in some sort of a coma. She's not waking up throughout the film. She's not eating throughout the film. The girl who's making the podcast is just sort of waiting for her mother to die. And while all of that is going on, this girl and her co-host, while they're doing their podcast, are listening to these recordings that were anonymously sent to them. And as they listen to these 10 recordings, scary things start to happen all around her. Again, I started this by saying that this is the scariest movie you'll ever hear because that's how this movie was advertised. The audio presentation of this film is supposed to creep you out. And I will say on the positive side that the audio presentation did creep me out in this film. It really worked while I was in the theater. I remember when I first saw this trailer, how the trailer creeped me out in and of itself, just because of the way the audio was in the theater. You would think the trailer was over, and then you'd hear a voice behind you. That's pretty creepy, and that's pretty effective. And then when I went and saw this movie in the theaters, well, it was the same sort of situation. Creepy sound design, a good sound mix that really got under your skin throughout the film. And where my negative really is for this movie, or my biggest negative for this movie, is the way they ended it. Unfortunately, it didn't feel like they had a solid ending for this movie, so they kind of just turned up the sound, made everything crazy, made all of your senses sort of thrown off because of how loud and how many things were being thrown at you at once, and it really kind of lost me at the end. I remember thinking, oh wow, if they send this movie home, this could be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Like, legitimately, there's a creepy way that they play with the camera work in this film as well, where the main character seems to be being watched by the entity through the camera lens that you're watching. For instance, as the camera pans through the house, it'll pan past her, but then as it should be in the next room, it's automatically back on her. And I loved those camera shots. And again, to me, it was conveying that the demon that they were unlocking with these audio tapes was watching her more and more, how it was focused on just her. So when you get to the end of this film, I was really hoping for a lot, and it just kind of goes the possession route and throwing a lot at you, not answering a lot of questions, and that was a bit disappointing since the rest of the movie was so damn good. That said, it's a movie I would definitely recommend to people. I've done a full review for this on my channel if you want more of my thoughts, but I do think that if you watch this movie alone at home with a surround sound, I think you'll have a lot more fun with this film instead of maybe watching it on an iPhone or not paying attention, just having it on in the background. Like, if you watch this movie at home, try to have surround sound, try to have a situation where you're locked into the film and you don't have any distractions. I think that'll be the best way to watch this movie. Well, if number 3 on this list is supposed to be one of the scariest films you'll ever hear, then number 2 on this list is going to be one of the most visually impressive films I've seen in a very long time, and that would be Project Hail Mary. This film takes place mostly in space, and I love watching space on the big screen. It also stars Ryan Gosling, who is a fantastic actor, and in this film he plays a teacher who figures out why the sun is cooling, and that's why Earth is cooling, and so he gets sent into space to try and find a way to stop it. But when he gets up there, his fuel, his ship, it's not going to make the return trip. So he knows he has a mission to do. He has to get to this planet, find out why it's not affecting that planet, and then send that data back to Earth. But in that process, he runs into a little rock alien friend, and that's where this movie becomes more than just a space adventure. It also becomes about friendship, about a bond you can have when you just set your differences aside, or maybe they don't have differences to start, but they just trust each other. And it's such a nice message. It's such a good message about a guy becoming friends with this rock alien and how they work together to save not only Earth, but also this rock alien's home world as well. And it's such a beautiful story, the brotherhood bond, and it feels so nice to just watch a movie that has nothing but good messages to send while also being visually impressive. This is another movie I did a full review for on my channel, so if you want more of my thoughts, you can check my channel. But I had such a fun time watching Project Hail Mary, and that's why it's number 2 on this list. And that brings me to my number 1 pick for March of 2026. Is it a little goofy? Yes, it is, but it is Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. The first Ready or Not movie starring Samara Weaving was a lot of fun, but I feel like they took everything I liked about that first movie and they brought it to the next level. This movie isn't without its issues. There were some negatives I had in my review that I did for this, but man, the positives just outweighed the negatives for me personally. I loved the addition of Catherine Newton coming in as the sister to Samara Weaving. I loved the addition of Sarah Michelle Gellar. I thought she brought it to the big screen as well. The kills were bigger this time. The blood was bloodier this time. The laughs were funnier this time. Again, I thought the first movie was a really well-made film about a woman trying to survive her new in-laws on her wedding night with a little supernatural twist to it. And then this film, again, just takes all of that to the next level. It's just, now it's this woman trying to survive with her little sister. They're trying to survive together while all of these incredibly wealthy families come together to hunt and kill them. And if they can survive the night this time, they will rule the world. Like I said, it is a little goofy. There are some silly things that happen in this film where you're like, all right, you got to stretch your imagination for that. But I thought the supernatural edge worked for me this time around. Again, the laughs worked for me. I mentioned the new characters in this film. One I didn't mention yet is one played by Elijah Wood. He plays like the lawyer for this whole thing that's going on. And while all of these people are evil, his character is sort of evil neutral. Like, listen, I've got to do this because it's my job, but I don't care who wins. And so his character is one that you can really latch onto and you can laugh at some of the things that he does. I had a great time with Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, and I would love to see a third entry into this franchise. I did think they went a little too big with controlling the world being the stakes of the second film, so I don't know how they would get to a third film, but I would watch it. I had a fun time with Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. I can't wait till it's on 4K where I can buy it and put it on those shelves back there and show it to people because I had a lot of fun with it, and that's why Ready or Not 2, Here I Come is my favorite movie in March of 2026. And guys, that's my list. Those are all 6 films that I saw in March of 2026. Did you have a chance to see these movies? If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Maybe you saw more movies. I skipped a few movies that came out last month, like The Bride. It just didn't get good reviews, and I didn't want to waste 2 hours of my life watching something that everybody was telling me was a terrible film, so I just skipped it completely. And I also skipped They Will Kill You because it had mixed reviews, so maybe I'll catch those movies down the line. But for now, those are the movies that I saw in March of 2026. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright guys, we got to the end of my March 2026 movies ranked from worst to best video. Love making these videos because I get to talk about these movies one last time until the end of the year, and I had a fun time making this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys saw at least all of these movies throughout March, or if you haven't seen 1 or 2 of these movies and now you want to watch those movies because of this video, that's pretty cool too. I am looking forward to everything coming out in April of 26, and I am sorry this is a little late. I just have had a really busy beginning of April this year, but I am looking forward to April. I'm looking forward to reviewing more movies. And until then, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2026 so far right there. And I've got all of my 2026 movie reviews right there.